Hi, hello, and welcome back to another episode of my podcast. Now, what was I talking about? My name is V Noir, and this week I'm hitting 30 episodes. Woo woo woo! Pew pew pew! And I am talking about Nia DaCosta's 2025 film Hedda, and I I feel like I heard about Hedda right after it was out of theaters. It is like an Amazon Prime. It's on Amazon Prime, and I want to say it's an Amazon film. Let me double check. Yeah, it was distributed by Amazon MGN Studios via Amazon Prime. And yeah, I mean, Amazon usually has a better deal with putting their movies, at least the ones that they're distributing, in theaters for a good chunk of time, better than Netflix does, because Netflix typically does only like a week run and then it hits their streaming platform. But for some reason, I just wasn't aware that this movie was coming out. But I do at least have Amazon Prime for their streaming service, mainly so I could watch Gen V and The Boys. And then I think when both of those are done with, I am gonna finally give it up. I mean, I could, pirate those shows as well, but because I'm like, I could figure it out. I could figure out how to watch these. But I don't know. I guess Amazon is Amazon, and I know they're kind of changing it up. And I do kind of treat their streaming separate from like shopping through them. But not to say that they're that different, but I don't know. Some things that I allow myself to do, I guess. What was I trying to say? But yeah, I don't know. I also don't like I pay for YouTube Premium, so I don't really get ads for things. And honestly, like, oh my God, YouTube Premium. Like whenever I see ads on YouTube, I'm like, oh God, you just get hit with them like every 30 seconds. And I'm like, this is awful. And I'm so glad I'm not, you know, dealing with this. And I mainly do YouTube Premium because I also have a Roku on my TV, and you can have YouTube on there as well. And so, just so I don't have ads across the board, I have YouTube Premium so I can also not have ads on my TV. And I mean, unless there's a way to like jailbreak a Roku and have it so you don't have ads on your Roku for YouTube, I, you know, I'm like, unless there's a way to do that, I am unaware of how to do that. But if you can, I will probably do that and not pay for YouTube either. But lots of Oh, well, I guess I'm kind of thinking about piracy right now because a really big um website that housed a lot of manga, web comics, manhwa, and just like so many different things called Banto just got shut down because I like anti-piracy things. And of course people are like, oh well, why don't you just support the official release? And a lot of people are like, well, I was using this site to read and reread things from like the 70s and 80s that don't have an official release, that only have this fan version of it. And it's like completely out of print. There's like no way to access this except for through this website. Um, and so, all these conversations around piracy and stuff. And it's like, for a lot of people, they it's a nuance issue, right? Like a lot of people pirate because there is no other way to access something. There's the region blocks that happen with things, and it's like, oh, I thought we were in a global world here. I thought the World Wide Web was going to connect us in this way. But you're telling me I can't watch something just because I'm in a different country, or I can't read something just because I'm in a different country. And so now I have to go through this roundabout way to gain access to this. It's like, why is this happening? It's like when I found out about like region locked DVDs and stuff back in the day, like things are being sold specific to specific countries. So if your VCR, like if you had an American VCR and you had bought a Japanese DVD, or let's say VCR and then use DVD. If you bought like a Japanese VHS or something, it could be region locked to only work on Japanese VCRs, similar with Japanese like DVDs and DVD players. And so you would have the media, but not be able to actually view it unless you bought another piece of equipment just to watch this one thing. So yeah, it's like a issue of access and not being able to access stuff when it comes to a lot of manga, especially when it comes to things like shoujo and josei manga, because a lot of that, even though it's really, really popular in Japan, it doesn't get an English release. So a lot of people have to seek out that genre through, not so legal means. And it's like, okay, so you're getting rid of a good source of access essentially for people, but you're not providing the people what they actually want, which is official licensed versions of these things that they can purchase, because a lot of times people pirate and then also buy physical things. Like I've definitely done that before, and it was just like um a necessity. It was just like I would pirate out of necessity of like I'm trying to access this thing and I can't really find it right now, but I'm wanting to watch it or wanting to review it really quickly. Um and like yeah, like there was a big point of like this shit is out of print at this point. These big corporations don't really care about reaching this target audience, and it just really sucks. Honestly, it just sucks that they would go so far to take down this website and not actually provide a service and make it easier for people to support official releases of things. And also the fact that this is kind of very much an archival issue of this was a place to find a lot of really old like manga that is definitely out of print, companies not existing. A lot of the stuff people were bringing up on Twitter uh was things that weren't available anymore because of like fires and things, so it's like it's really, it really fucking sucks. I don't know if the Internet Archive tried to uh sort of, archive the website and you could maybe be able to view stuff through the Wayback Machine or something. Obviously, there's plenty of other sites that do exist that I'm not going to name because, again, it's like, well, maybe Banto was attacked in this way because people were talking about it. And it's like, yeah, you're not really supposed to talk about these sites because, again, they will get brought down. The only thing that's um kind of untouchable uh for a while is the Pirate Bay because I'm like that site has gotten taken down so many times and then it just ends up being in some other server somewhere else right back up, like whoever is behind them, kudos to them. But otherwise I'm like, yeah, I am very much so used to since like middle school, high school maybe, which is like 20 years ago. Ooh. I am in my 30s. um, but I am so used to like when I was first getting into Korean dramas and like that's things that I would binge, like that was binging for me before Netflix or whatever. Like I would just be like eating that shit up. One of my first like K dramas was like My Girlfriend is a Gumaho or like Boys Over Flowers, those things. I knew of Coffee Prince, but my only like actual watching of it was through a Big Bang parody of it all, which love that. You know, Ju Drang was playing the girl character, which he always ended up doing for some reason whenever they would do these parodies. And then Top was the is always like the main guy. And now Top's an actor. But like a big site for me initially was my Soju, which not only had like Korean dramas, but it also had it's like genres across Asia and just like other countries in general. Like there might have been American stuff on there too. I can't remember. But I loved my Soju. It was such a well designed website and it had so many things and I was like crushed when that was um taken down because again, like piracy, but it's like there's way more access to a lot of, you know, foreign shows like that. Like Netflix has a deal, things are on Amazon Prime and stuff. But like, uh, My Drama Fever was another good site, and that was an official site that I think was through Warner, I believe. Yeah, My Drama Fever was through Warner Brothers, and that was a really good one that kind of made up for the loss of my soju, but it really was only Korean dramas. It got shut down in 2018, and I'm like, oh, that was like right before the big boom of K dramas becoming way, way, way more popular. And I'm like, they really should have just held out. They should have held out. Um, But and yeah, now it just feels so scattered because it's like, okay, well, there's this popular one on Netflix, but oh, but what about all these other ones? And I like that everything was just there on one platform. Like it's annoying that you would have to switch through to even you know, watch the different ones. And Viki is definitely a little better because they also I remember watching like daily soap operas on Viki. I said Viki. I mean, it's Viki. And that one, I feel like that's become more official. I remember that started as like a site where it was like all fan translations and people who knew Korean and other languages would also add their own translations and I thought that was really cool. Yeah, now it's like Rakuten Viki, which, you know, is more official. But I mean, and that's like kind of nice. It's like, okay, this sort of unofficial thing becomes this bigger thing through like an official uh corporation. And I'm like, something like that could happen with Banto, you know, like rather than punishing these people for daring to have more of a global reach than you fucking guys. Um, they could have just worked with them to have more of an official release, you know, because even Banto, even though like it was more of a distribution, it wasn't necessarily like its own, like, oh, all of this is in house translations. Like they were still uploading stuff from other websites that were doing fan translations. Like Banto wasn't its own like fan translation. It was just like a website that re-up. It was a re-upload website. Um, but yeah, I'm like easily like somebody was bringing up how like Crunchyroll was something that started as like a fan translation thing that just grew into this bigger thing that now debuts anime as it airs, you know. And I'm like, ugh, something like that could happen with Banto. I'm like, y'all really suck. Like y'all are missing out on money first of all, by being misogynistic and not um doing a wider worldwide release of like shoujo and josei, um and sticking to things that are more boy and male audience related. But it's getting better, thankfully. I'm like, there's so much like shoujo and josei that is getting anime releases. Like Taemon's B-side is like really, really popular right now, to the point where the 13th volume has to do more, like has to do a reprint because the pre-order has already sold out. It's like, wow, that's crazy. It's almost as though people were waiting for this kind of good content that was like geared towards them. It is kind of funny that a lot of well, not like a lot, but there is a good amount of like shoujo right now that is centered around uh like boy bands and like not K-pop, but just like boy bands, J-pop, and like I just found out about a Yuri that's like called what's it called? Can I Call You Yune? And I already read it. There's only 3 chapters though, unfortunately. But it's super cute. And this one, that one specifically is more about someone who is a fangirl, and she always loved this idol who was a K-pop idol. And but she left the industry and like completely retired, and it's been like 10 years or something since this idol's been in the public eye. And this character gets like convinced to go on a dating app, and she matches with someone that looks exactly like her. And she's like, "Oh, let's go on this date, whatever." Not because you look like this idol that I love, but like low key, that's because of that. Yeah, and it's like it's really cute, at least so far. And what's adorable is that the idol also recognizes her as the fangirl who would fly in from Japan and always cry. And she's like, "You kind of look like her, but you're way more confident. And I never actually saw your face, so I don't know." And they're also older women. This is another thing too. I'm so tired of, and like as I get older, I'm so tired of seeing romances and things set in like high school or younger, like 20s or something. Especially, or oh my God, not to mention like it's a high school romance, but the characters are obviously in their 20s. So now it's like, why didn't y'all just put them in a college setting? Like, I don't get it. I mean, it's been kind of nice to watch Degrassi, which is a show I've never watched, but I knew of, because those are people who are high school age. And I'm like, oh, look at this drama with these guys. I'm like, oh, this is like a actual like lots of drama. But and that's like very different because I'm like not taking it as seriously, but I'm like, I want to see more stuff with people around my age or even older falling in love, dealing with their adult problems, and that kind of thing. And what I was going to say about like Hedda is that even if I probably did um see this movie come out, I've been kind of staying away from like watching things that I consider like drama in theaters, which I need to stop. I need to go, need to be better about just seeing essentially everything, or at least everything that interests me in theaters, because yeah, like because in general, like the theater going experience is just so nice. So, and it always elevates a movie. Like if I think about like how when theaters were initially coming out, it's like they were treated as these like palaces essentially, like they were very ornate and just like gorgeous and treated exactly like almost like an opera house, or um like plays or something. Like it was this elevated experience, like you're going out, you know. And yeah, no, I mean, there's definitely stuff that I'm like, oh, I know this is gonna make me cry, so I don't know if I want to cry in public. But I'm like, ugh, I gotta get over that. Especially if I'm going by myself. It's like, no, this is gonna make me sad, and it's okay to feel sad. Um, and I'm like so against going to watch a movie because other people are like gushing about it, but I'm like, no, let's just check it out, especially if I'm trying to make movie reviewing um like a thing that I'm doing like for real for real. Like I have to watch things that even that I'm not even interested in because that'll also just give me a broader perspective on things and I'll be like, okay, so did I not like this at all? For real? Is this actually good? Am I giving this a not nuanced opinion, but like objective opinion on it, you know? So let's see. Maybe that'll be my 2026 goal of the year. Watching more movies that are, you know, like out of my comfort zone. Um, but yeah, because I'm like, I wanted to see Sing Sing and didn't because I was like, I know this movie's gonna make me cry. And I still haven't watched it because I'm like, am I in a crying mood right now? But I will watch it. And I always feel like the beginning of the new year is when I try to watch movies that I missed out on the previous year. So like Hedda is one of them. I think next week I'm going to talk about Mickey 17 because that was something I wanted to watch and missed in theaters. I was like bummed about. But I'll finally watch it and talk about it. And to sort of segue back into what I was going to talk about this week, let's get into the synopsis of Hedda. So I'm reading it from Amazon officially. From Nia DaCosta comes a provocative modern reimagining of Henrik Ibsen's classic play. Hedda finds herself torn between the lingering ache of a past love and a quiet suffocation of her present life. Over the course of one charged night, long repressed desires and hidden tensions erupt, pulling her and everyone around her into a spiral of manipulation, passion, and betrayal. So, you know, I was definitely taken in by that. And I think when people were gushing about like heated rivalry and wanting like uh a GL slash Yuri version of heated rivalry, people were bringing up Hida as being this like, you know, sapphic film and I'm like, ooh, sapphic. So I was like, oh, okay, let me check this out. It is pretty good. It is also kinda long, but it's an hour, 48 minutes. I mean, which has made it 2 hours at that point, but, um, what was I gonna say? I really liked it. I really liked the drama of it all. I watched it not really I don't think I remember reading that description before watching it. I was just like, "Oh, this is Sapphic, Tessa Thompson." Oh, I watched the trailer. That's what it was. I watched the trailer and I was like, "This seems interesting enough." I love movies that take place in like one night essentially and stay in like one location. Like love that. I mean, those are always so interesting because you're kind of thrown into the drama. Ooh, the drama without like sort of knowing offhand like about these characters and stuff and you're not like given all this fucking exposition. But knowing that it is based on a stage play from like the 1800s or something. It's from 1891 because I'm like, let's make sure I didn't just throw out a number. But it's from 1891 and what was it? I was like, whoa, 1891 and there's lesbianism and then I read into it and it's like, no, Nia DaCosta just like gender swapped uh Eileen's character, who her name would have originally been like Ilbert, I think. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, Illert. Otherwise, the characters kind of stay the same ish, um, which is pretty interesting. Like Thea is still Ilbert slash Eileen's lover. Hedda is who she is. She is still getting married or is married to George Tesman. Um, who is Julie? Oh, Juliana is a character that doesn't really come up in this. And oh, Judge Bark is in this as well. And so, um, yeah, let's just get into the plot really quick. Oh, actually, before that, let's get into the cast because Hida is played by Tessa Thompson. Her husband, George Tesman, is played by Tom Bateman, who I was like, okay, he looks familiar. What have I seen him in? And he was in the Hercule Poirot movies that came out recently, and I was like, oh, that's that guy. And and he was also in this show called Behind Her Eyes, which essentially is a irrational fear that I've had and come to life because it's a show about someone. It's a very quiet show, by the way. It's but it is like a horror. Essentially, this man becomes interested in this woman, and but he's married, and he doesn't really like his wife. And the wife becomes friends with the woman that he is more attracted to, and then they get into this whole thing about astral projection, and she gets this woman to essentially you know, leave her body, and the woman gets out of her own body and goes into this new woman's body and kills her old body essentially. And I hate that. I hate the idea of that a lot. Just to be able to astral project and then somebody takes over your body, essentially. Like, I don't like that. Honestly, I should make something about that. I know it is very irrational, but yeah. Um, and then there's like this whole other thing where we find out that um I'm like, I don't even know if he would ever realize what's going on. It's like, oh, every time I'm attracted to someone new and I get with them, all of a sudden their personality changes to the person that I was trying to get away from. Like it is kind of weird, like a weirdly ambiguous ending. But anyway, to get back into the cast, I was just like, oh, that's where he's from. Eileen Loveberg is played by Nina Haas, who was in like Tar, which is another sapphic lesbian movie I need to finish watching. That one's also like another quiet film, but that's like her and Kate Blanchett. I'm like, I need to finish that one actually. And Thea is played by Imogen Potes. Potts. Oh, she's in 28 Weeks Later, the 2007 movie. And other things that I don't know, don't recognize. Judge Roland Bart is played by Nicholas Andre Connick, which he's a British actor, so he's in stuff that I haven't really like heard of. And I would say that's like the main cast. There's other I was gonna say miscellaneous people, but yeah, there's other people in this cast, but essentially he just starts off with her explaining what happened to police. And as I just described that, I was like, oh, well, we know what happened. Well, actually, no, no. Never mind. I was like, wait, the ending though. If she's explaining this to police, then the ending. I was like, no. The ending happens after the police talk. Now I'm remembering. But yeah, so she's explaining to the police what happened, to cause someone to essentially shoot themselves, and starts all the way back to the very beginning of the night, or the day before the night. And I mean, like, as in it's the same day, but it's like 4 in the afternoon or something. Not the day before, essentially. But anyway, so we see her in the river, and she gets called into the house because someone is giving her a call. And she runs out of the river and she drops all these rocks on the ground. And I'm like, oh, okay, so she's about to kill herself. Interesting. Interesting way to start this off. This is a suicidal, probably really depressed person. But yeah, so she comes back into the house, and mainly because her someone she was previously acquainted with romantically, uh Dr. Eileen Loveberg Loveborg is confirming her attendance to the party that night. So, like, okay, so this is a person that she cares enough about to essentially not kill herself over, because she was, called in from the river because this woman was calling her. So, yeah. So then it kind of gets into like her trying to prep everything. You can kind of tell that like the maids and staff of the house aren't really like fucking with her like that. And I was like, okay, is this just like racism? But we later on find out that like they all don't believe that either Hida or George are going to stay in that house, and that this is going to be like one big hurrah before the house has to go back to the bank, because they don't believe these people really have that much money because of how expensive that place is to maintain. So I was like, okay, so it's more of like a weird class thing. Um, and then we get introduced to her husband, George, who is honestly kind of pathetic. He's kind of a loser. And we're kind of introduced to like how Hida is perceived by him as well, because he's like really trying to get this professor position, and he wants her to bring her more you know fun friends around this guy who is essentially going to be the one to promote him, and he'll get tenure. And so this is also how we know that they are having kind of financial troubles, because right now their finances are kind of hinging on him getting this position, and then they'll be able to stay in this house. And we also are introduced to Judge Bark, who helped finance the house as well. And, him talking to Hida, he's like, I helped y'all buy this house on a whim, essentially. And at this point, the party is happening, and they sneak off. The judge and Hida sneak off, and she shows him her dad's like gun collection, because her dad was, in the military, and she's a I was gonna say bastard child, which is wild to say. I mean, essentially, like she is a product of her dad cheating, and but he was, like proud of her or whatever, like always called her his pretty little thing, which interesting. And the judge, you know, there's like it's obvious that like he's attracted to her and he does like make out with her and stuff and gets like touchy with her, but she shuts it down to a point. And so for me, I'm like, okay, so has he been this sort of figure in her life that has wanted her in this sexual sense, like probably watched her grow up and everything? And, she likes the attention to a point, but she doesn't want to be physically with him. And, which I was like, oh, this is gross. Especially because it's like he's this older man. And we see him at first because he comes to the house and she's like playing with the guns and she shoots at him. And I'm like, okay, so there's definitely a level of hostility that she has towards him, but because she's treated as this eccentric character, eccentric person, her essentially threatening him is just like, oh, that was just a joke. Haha, she doesn't actually want to hurt me. It's like, no, she probably does, but you aren't treating her seriously because she's a woman. And I was gonna say because she's also, black mixed race, but he's also like this dark skinned man who's a judge. So, and she's more lighter skinned than him. So it's like, I think that would be more like, okay, she's a woman, and because of her race, if he was like played by a white man, but um there's definitely like race and class things going on here in this movie as well. And like in an interview that I was reading with Nia DaCosta, she also says that yeah, she is very much interested in race and specifically like being a black person in these predominantly white spaces and navigating through that because a lot of her education took place in those kinds of settings. And I'm like, yeah, I understand. Like, definitely, that's definitely at play here because she is very much looked down upon for being not only a woman, but also being a woman of color. And this party is essentially mostly uh, kind of stuffy white men and their younger wives, So then when Thea shows up, which is Eileen's current girlfriend, lover, this kind of threatens uh Hedda in a way because it's like, oh, Eileen is sober. She stopped drinking. She's writing. And not only are you telling me that you're the reason that Eileen is sober, but you're also her writing partner and you're leaving your husband to be with her. Like, oh, these things that I didn't do with Eileen and even threatened her that I would shoot her if she left me. But Thea doesn't know that Hida is the one that threatened Eileen's life, but she's just like, someone here said that they would shoot her. So I'm looking out for that in case her life is at threat in here. And I'm like, Thea as a character seemed very like anxious and stuff too. She she was getting on my nerves, but not like in like a um not in a narrative sense. I was just like, oh, if this was a real person in my life, I would be kind of annoyed because I would be picking up her anxiety. And I'm like, I need you to calm down. Everything is okay. Like she was doing a really good job of being this like anxious person. Um, But then, yeah, like the party's going. We see Hida weave in and out. One of the professor that George needs to get on his good side shows up with his much younger wife. And then we kind of see that Hida is like plotting and scheming and stuff because Eileen shows up with a few of her own friends, and George is like, no. And he is like, no, yeah, no, that's great. Perfect. Come in here. And there's a man specifically that we can tell that Hedda. At first, I was like, oh, is Hedda flirting with him? And is this going to be another person that we kind of see her go off with, and like do stuff with? And it's like, nope. She was setting it up so that he would seduce this professor's much younger wife and, like fuck her in the maze later on. Essentially, I was like, oh, that's crazy. But yeah, so we definitely see how manipulative Hida is and how she is like very controlling of different people in this sort of roundabout way. So obviously we can see that she's jealous of Thea. Eileen finally shows up and Eileen's talking about like how she wrote this another other book that Thea already mentioned that she's going to be published, co-authored as a co-author of this second book. And, of course, Hida is plotting and scheming. And um, I was like, this is so dumb. Why? I don't know why Eileen had it in her head that she would bring the one and only copy of this new book to this party. Don't know why she did that. She should have just had another copy made so that, like a proof that she could bring around and show people while the original is like somewhere else. So that if anything could happen, because it's a party, people are drinking. It's very jazzy. It's set in the 1950s instead of 1800s or like Victorian era or something. Um, and so yeah, so we also see Hida kind of manipulating Eileen and being like, you know, Thea and all this stuff, like, oh, you're writing with her. And Eileen calls her out and is like, you you are brilliant, but you're not courageous. You are a coward at heart because you could never be Thea. You could never leave your husband and be proudly with me. You are taking the, safest route possible. And obviously that like is upsetting Hida. And I think it's like a few things. Like she probably already had a plan to sort of sabotage Eileen because Eileen is now also in the running to get this professor position that her husband Gor- Dre- uh, George is trying to get. And so she was already probably gonna plot and scheme and try to sabotage Eileen, and she probably would have had a better job doing that if she was still like alcoholic and stuff. But now that she's sober, she's like, shit, okay, let's figure out what we can do. And so we see her plot and scheme. I keep saying that. But she kind of gets Eileen to drink one drink, and I'm like, fuck. So here we go. Here's the downfall. And they are flirtatious and they get into this groove again, like Eileen and Hida do. And Thea is around and is just like, no, you shouldn't be doing this. What's going on? And it's like, no, Hida has this kind of power over Eileen that's like seductive and just like fun. And, she's reminded of this and how like dangerous Hida is to her. But she still like falls into this routine with her. They all go to the lake to like go skinny dipping and whatnot. And when this happens, Eileen, puts down her bag that had the manuscript in it, and Hida, while Eileen is, wet and everything, um, try not to make like a sexual joke, but she grabs the manuscript and hides it without Eileen knowing. And so later on, Thea is just upset and everything and basically decides to leave the party. And she's like, I can't deal with you as this. They kind of break up. They end up breaking up as well. Thea and Eileen do. And, she decides to leave the party. But I don't think she's like gone just yet because she shows up later on. But yeah, so gosh, this is this is such a dramatic. There's like a lot of drama here, and it does make sense that it's based on a play because plays be like that, very dramatic, especially when it's taking place in like one night, one setting, essentially one environment. Because it's like you do move throughout the party, you do see different scenes, you're inside, outside, and basically, Hida takes the manuscript and, at some point, oh, yes, yes, yes. I'm trying to remember. So Eileen, joins the men in their den as they're talking about whatever and fucked up again because Eileen is like drinking and Hida's like, oh, yeah, don't wear your jacket. Even though like her nips are just like out essentially in her dress because her dress is this like see through thing, but because she was just wet. Her outfit isn't fully dry and everything, and now her nipples are showing through her dress. And, again, Hida is doing this to sabotage her without her knowing. And none of the men say anything. And she's just like, she's very much very confident and controlling the room. She's offering the men drinks and she's talking about how her book is about the history of sex, and her new book is going to be about where she thinks sex is going. And like, about fetishes and stuff. And like, George is so very interested in this. And it's just like, oh God. So he is not even getting like good sex either. He's not knowledgeable in any way, especially because one of her friends is like, oh, yeah, no, she loves to eat out and stuff and has an insatiable appetite when George brings up how he spent their honeymoon doing research and stuff. So, that like startled her because she's like, no, but she is very much a very sexual person. So it's like, okay, well, if she wasn't fucking you, she's definitely fucking somebody else, essentially. And yeah, so at that point, when she brings up the second book, everybody's like, oh, we want to hear some of it, what you're talking about. And she grabs her bag and then she's like, it's missing, it's gone. So then everybody in the house decides to search for it. And Hida's like, yeah, no, we couldn't find it. Oh no, here's a gun. There's nothing else you can do. You just ruin your chances, essentially, and basically it's like, yeah, you should just kill yourself. And we see a scene of her essentially in that hallway that we see in the very beginning that Hida um, comes into to get that call from the doctor, or comes into after she almost kills herself and, stops because she gets that call from Eileen, who is a doctor. She has a PhD. But I haven't been I haven't been calling her Dr. Eileen or anything. I'm like, I guess I should have, but whatever. I'm almost done talking about the plot of the movie. But yeah, so we see Eileen take the gun, put it under her mouth, and she decides not to kill herself. Later on, it's like becoming dawn. She's going out to the lake. She has the gun in her hand, and one of the guys, my cat is like right here on the desk. One of the guys like tries to wrestle the gun out of her hand, but then the gun goes off and she ends up getting shot. And this upsets Hida because at this point she's also like burning the manuscript. And she's like, no, I thought if she was gonna kill herself, I thought she would do it somewhere beautiful, not here, not like this, you know? And, George confronts her about that and confronts her about the manuscript. And he's like, and no, sorry. He just like, she was your direct competition. I did this for you so that you could be guaranteed the position. Um, and then George kind of participates in destroying the manuscript as well. Or like at that point, the manuscript was basically gone. And Thea comes out of nowhere and she's just like, I still love you. I shouldn't have said what I said. I'm still here for you. Uh Eileen gets taken off by the ambulance, and then this is when the police come and they interview everyone. And then the judge confronts Hida and is like, I know what you did. I know that you gave her the gun. And so now he's like, I have something to hold against you. And he runs after her. He chases her and tries to assault her, and she's able to defend herself and get away. And it it's also like after she sees George and Thea working to rewrite the manuscript that was destroyed and lost essentially to everybody else, because Thea, co-wrote it and she has notes and everything, and George is so interested in this topic now because he has no sex life essentially, or at least not any sexual uh deviancy, I guess. Like his sex is just like up down, that's it. Like he doesn't have fetishes or anything. He doesn't know what that is. Uh and yeah, it's like, yeah, so he just sees that, is confronted by the judge. The judge tries to assault her. She gets him off of him and runs away. And then she goes back to that lake again, puts stones in her dress, even more stones this time, walks into the lake, and George, oh, yeah, because the gun goes off. Yes, 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 yes. Uh, and George and Thea are like trying to find Hida, and she's like way further in the lake at that point. And they yell that Eileen has woken up and survived a gunshot, and then the movie ends. And I was like, shoot, that's like way more ambiguous. So I had to like, I didn't read the Wikipedia ending. I'm gonna do that right now. Yeah, no, the ending is ambiguous. Even Wikipedia says that. It's like, oh, well, does she decide to go through with it? But it's like, if the ending mirrors the beginning where she was essentially trying to kill herself, but then doesn't because Eileen calls her, I don't think she would do it because Eileen survives, So, yeah, I don't think she would kill herself. But what was I gonna say? But when reading about the original play, Ilbert does kill himself, and Hida also kills herself. Like, like that's just what happens. And so Nia DaCosta, in this interview that I read off of robertebert.com, she was interviewed by Robert Daniels, and it was honestly a pretty good interview because he is also a black man, so there was this level of you know, also being a black person, and being like reading more into it and like the racial dynamics and the class dynamics. And it was a good interview overall. And Nia DaCosta brings up like how she enjoys trying to write and portray black women specifically, who aren't really likable characters. And I'm like, yeah, Hida is definitely this person who is nuanced, and it's like it's hard to tell what her motivations are and where her motivations lie, but it's like um she's someone who is depressed, and a lot of the things she's doing are probably just like, okay, well, this is kind of keeping me alive. This is interesting. And, you know, she doesn't fear death because she is a suicidal person. So she's just doing whatever. And when Nia DaCosta brought up, mm, wanting to write women who are unlikable, and me thinking about how she is this depressed person, I couldn't help but think about the movie Melancholia from 2011, starring Kristen Dunst, who is also playing this like unlikable, depressed woman. And let me kind of just read. Well, the synopsis doesn't really tell you too much about her being a depressed person, but uh, so yeah, Melancholia, to get into the synopsis a little bit, is about a planet hurtling toward a collision course with Earth. Two sisters, one of them trying to recover from a heavy bout of depression and a failed marriage, cope with their destiny in very different ways. And so, uh, even like in the very first half of the movie, we're following Kirsten Dunst's character, who is this depressed person? Who is this depressed person who is it's like, oh, she's gotten better, she's getting married and all this stuff, she seems happy, but then all of a sudden, she ends up like sleeping with this man on her wedding day, and then like just completely breaking up with her husband, and then afterwards she's getting taken care of by her sister, and she's depressed to the point of like not being able to take care of herself and stuff. And I'm like, ooh, yeah, I understand. I would say I'm like a very functional depressed person. Like it has been really bad for me, but I've um kind of made it work in the past. Um, but yeah, I remember this movie being very depressing in general, and I was like, but Hedda as a character reminds me of Kirsten Dunst's character in Melancholia, because she is also someone like, okay, this is a very depressed person, but she's doing these sort of erratic things to sort of just, kind of breathe life into herself and make life interesting. I'm like, it's like kind of hard to explain. It's just like when you have no will to live, that you're kind of making your own entertainment essentially, and you're like, well, this is making me feel something, you know. Even if you're kind of fucking over the people in your life, at least it makes me feel something. And I'm thinking like even if Hida didn't, like fully went through her suicide attempts, but she survived, like people would just think of that because she's this eccentric person. They would think of her behavior as just like her being attention seeking and not actually thinking of it as something, you know, like an issue, which really sucks. I'm having like deja vu right now, which is weird because I haven't, watched this movie or anything. But yeah, and I'm like, and I keep thinking about what Eileen was saying, and it's like she's a coward at heart, and it's like she doesn't really believe in herself, and honestly, maybe she would never go through it fully, like suicide. Like maybe she would go get to the point of making it so that someone becomes so enraged at her that they kill her, like what if that's, the trajectory of her life, like, which would be really sad. And especially this is like the 1950s, so it's like there's not a lot of things that women, especially black women, could do. Um, but in general, like I did really, really like this movie. I like the character dynamics. I like the nuance of Hida as a character. I'm kind of interested in watching like the stage play, even though It would be the original gender of Eileen being a man, which honestly, Nia DaCosta brought up a great point of like how that character being played as a woman made way more sense because this is a person, her character in general is basically kept the same, like character motivations and everything, being depressed, being an alcoholic. Um, she's just, played by a woman. And uh like the character when I was reading up on it is like someone who's like depressed, alcoholic, and doesn't um is insecure about like their professor position and feels like they're misunderstood. And it's like, sure, yeah, there's men out there like that, but like it's more impactful that this is someone played by a woman because it's like, yeah, women for sure, especially in academic spaces, are treated as seriously and not and misunderstood. Um, but yeah, I really liked it. It's on Amazon Prime if you want to check it out. I like the drama of it all, and Nia DaCosta is doing great shit. I really enjoyed her Candyman. Um, Essentially a sequel to the first movie that came out in the 90s. Um, I liked how she mm, made it more modern, I guess. And I do need to watch the Bone Temple movie that came out. I gotta watch all of the 28 movies in general because I haven't watched the first one or any of them. Because I honestly kind of stay away from zombie stuff, but I am trying to get better and watching like everything. And yeah, I think that I'll just wrap it up here. Check out my podcast archive at www.nwwitapod.com. I have a Patreon, patreon.com/vnoirs film club. You can find me on Instagram at v_new_r_, and I have a TikTok, which I'm probably going to get rid of at v_new_r. And yeah, I'll see you all next week. Bye.